calls guns America's blind spot and says that while the chances of a ban on assault weapons are close to zero, it's still the right goal for Congress and the White House to pursue. Polly Toynbee in The Guardian says she has never seen the Conservatives so shambolic and warns far worse is to come. The former Conservative Foreign Secretary, Lord Hague, says his party should fling open their doors to bearers of new ideas, telling his party colleagues they need to create a buzz to defeat Jeremy Corbyn. Rachel Sylvester in The Times highlights the shift in the balance of power in the Conservative Party, writing that normally MPs depend on their leader for promotion, but now it is Mrs May's fate which lies in the hands of her backbenchers. In The Sun newspaper, Theresa May's former Joint Chief of Staff, Nick Timothy, urges his boss, her one-time boss, to use her conference speech tomorrow to set out how the Conservatives will intervene to reform the economy to make it more fair. And Boris Johnson is waiting for Theresa May's time to be up in Nicola Jennings' cartoon in The Guardian, with the Prime Minister physically trapped in the sand timer. Well, joining me to go through those pages are Sonia Sodha, the leader writer of The Guardian and a former advisor to Ed Miliband, and Tom Newton-Dunn, political editor of The Sun. Welcome to you both. I'm going to talk mainly about the issue of this conference, but I mean, I have to say this Times editorial, Tom, with the figure that more Americans have died in their own country as a result of guns since 1969, 1.5 million, than in all America's wars, including the Civil War. 1.39 million. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Statistics.
Right, and these statistics are piling up. More Americans died from gun violence in last year alone than the entirety of the Northern Ireland Troubles over 30 years of a counterinsurgency. They're astronomical figures, and the Times leader makes the very good point that there is next to zero chance of America passing any form of meaningful gun control through Congress at the moment. It's a Republican Congress, a Republican president, but they have to keep on trying, they have to keep on making the argument. You think Hillary Clinton proposed gun control as part of her package. Now, she won more votes than Donald Trump, obviously didn't win the presidency. So, but for a few thousand people voting a different way, we could actually have at least some gun control in the States already.
It's one of those things that's almost impossible to explain to non-Americans.
It is, and we keep on having this same debate every time there is a mass shooting in the US. But I think after 2012, the shooting in Sandy Hook Elementary School, when 20 primary age school children lost their lives, you know, if we were going to see gun reform, exactly, I think we'd have seen it then when there was a sympathetic president, President Obama. Interestingly, back then, Trump backed Obama when he was calling for tougher gun control, but he has since shifted his position, and I think it's going to take many more tragedies before we see action on this issue. And the other interesting thing is that the American public really support tougher controls on guns. If you look at public opinion
majority,
data,
yeah.
The majority do. It's just that Republican lawmakers will not pass tougher controls.
And also the point made that the way American democracy works, in population terms, the rural states are overrepresented in terms of their political influence.
Yeah.
Now, The Sun.
Yes.
Blueprint May must follow. Nick Timothy, the man, mastermind, I suppose we'd call him, of the last election campaign, the man who wrote the manifesto, got more advice for the Prime Minister. Is it the right advice, and is it welcome, do you think, Tom?
It's very interesting advice. So Nick, who is now one of our columnists, as he indeed does the same thing for the Daily Telegraph, is following a very Mayist doctrine. This is precisely sort of stuff that, funny old thing, he thought up and wrote for the Prime Minister, say, this time last year. Use the power of the big state to clamp down on the injustices as the consumer and the voters might see, for example, capping energy bills. He's quite critical of the Business Secretary, Greg Clark, in his piece. I think the same sort of criticism he was giving Greg Clark when he was in Number 10, now he's able to do it publicly. He's saying, get on with this energy cap and get on with delivering this industrial strategy you were supposed to have done. And why on earth haven't we seen it yet? Now, this is Mayism, pure Mayism. Whether he has as much influence on her and is speaking for her, than he did in government is yet to be seen. We'll obviously find out tomorrow afternoon.
What do you reckon? Do you think he still has the ear of the Prime Minister one way or another?
I'm sure he still has the ear, and I'm sure there'll be a lot in that article that she would like to do. The problem for May is that it's not just up to her anymore. There's a lot of opinion pieces today as well commenting the fact that May seems to be a hostage to her own party. She's not got the authority that she used to have sort of 6 to 8 months ago. So if you're talking about things like an energy price cap, really clamping down on business, back then maybe that was something that she would have had the power to do. I'm just not so sure that she'll be able to deliver something like that.
But we've got even William Hague saying the party needs new big ideas.
Yeah, and I think that's also code for new people. So with big ideas, that's great, but quite frankly, you're going to need new people to sell it. William Hague is too polite and loyal to Theresa May to quite go that far. But big ideas cannot be sold by old dogs, to mix the terrible metaphors there. And really, it's a matter of time. Everybody in this conference knows before they choose a new person, Theresa May's job is now to build a bridge for them to get to the new person.
But on the
Promote some of this young talent.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you know, there's a problem, isn't there, Rachel? That, you know, if Rachel Sylvester is right, Sonia, there's a problem because she can't afford to push some of these big beasts out because she's not in control.
Yeah, because she's not in control. And I have to say, I mean, I read that William Hague piece, and those ideas didn't seem big or radical to me compared to some of the stuff we're seeing from Jeremy Corbyn. He's speaking to the fact that Conservatives here this week know they need to attract younger voters. But the problem isn't just policy ideas. You know, when you're a party that's dominated by Brexit, fox hunting, grammar schools, this is not a party
well, that's all
that
gone
attracts...
now, isn't it?
Yes, but I think it lingers in the minds of voters. I think it explains why we saw young people move away from the Conservatives in such large numbers. This doesn't seem like a socially liberal, environmentally aware party.
I mean, she says she wants to stay on to fight the next election, but, you know, we're just seeing Rachel Sylvester's article there. Is she strong enough to really relaunch the party and take it in a radical direction with radical new faces?
No. And there's also the electoral, even if she wanted to, and it's unclear, quite frankly, all the, tepid announcements we've had so far at conference that there is that agenda actually there. She certainly doesn't have the numbers in the House of Commons. It is a terrible, terrible catch-22, and I think everybody here knows that it's a waiting game now. When that trigger is pulled, I believe you're about to hear from Grant Shapps, who may have some more information on when he likes that trigger, the leadership trigger, to be pulled. But we're in a waiting pattern.
Well, we'll certainly ask him that, but I mean, so you're coming close to agreeing with Polly Toynbee that things can only get worse?
Not quite what I said. I think as a point of principle, I couldn't ever agree with La Toynbee, or as brilliant a writer as she is. But it's definitely been a poor conference. There's no two ways about it. But I didn't have huge expectations, unlike Polly.
Yeah, but there isn't much. There's not much upbeat atmosphere here this week. I think there's a sense that this is a party that knows it's in terminal decline. What
about Boris Johnson? I mean, will he make it? I mean, that's the question. Will he?
Well, the wobbly shopping trolley.
Tory leader and Prime Minister.
So Boris's famous wobbly shopping trolley was veering all over the supermarket. Couldn't decide which way he's going to go on Brexit. We had his strong red line declared in our newspaper, an interview that I did with him on Saturday. Last night, somewhat humbled by a load of abuse from Tory activists, he said he's now rock solid behind the Prime Minister. No idea where these red lines came from. So I don't think by marching his troops up the hill and
what
then
do you mean,
down
no idea? You did an interview with him. That's what I think.
Well, that's what I thought. I've still got the tape recording to prove it, but Boris has to explain. Boris
has he got a bright future? Is he going to make it where he wants, world king or whatever it was he wrote on an envelope when he was 10?
I'm not so sure. I think Boris's moment might be over, and I think a lot of what we're seeing from him this week is perhaps reflecting that this is his sort of last gasp as well.
You reckon?
I think if it really comes to it, and if the Tories are 10 points behind in the polls, they're facing a general election, snap general election, they're in serious trouble, they will call for him simply because he can put bums on seats.
And this week's Conservative home poll of the membership, guess who's topping it as next leader?
That's true, but look who's in second place, Ruth Davidson. And I think if this is a party that wants to attract younger voters, they would be really well placed to look at a new generation of leader.
And remember, Boris has to get down to the last two from MPs to go to the country to the Tory leadership because they vote on only two candidates. He needs 106 Tory MPs to back him. I don't think he's even got 10 Tory MPs who do it at the moment, such as the frustration with his wobbly trolley.
All right, we shall see. Thank you both very much indeed. This is All Out Politics. Coming up next...